3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here with Ed LaCour. We're going to do a short discussion. We had a disaster in a hangout room with Christians. They wanted to debate me. They were friendly about it and said this and that. We're discussing the possibility of debating them. We shouldn't debate, or it's possibly fruitless. Go ahead, Ed. Why do you say?
Yes. Well, see, the thing is, I was debating, that was Nephilim free, presumably, we were dealing with. And the thing is, he basically wants to lose us in a jungle of sophistry and obscurantism. I mean, he's using intelligent design tactics. They basically just use complexity and not just the issue, but also complexity as in the whole tactic to lose people in a load of technical jargon, because you have to do books and books and books worth of research in order to refute a single point, because this is deep stuff. They're not very deep, but they're very good at losing themselves in depth, so that other people have to dig them out. Yeah. That's the whole point of sophistry. This is why I kept pinning him down on atoms.
Okay. Yeah. Before we go any further, I do have to tell you a joke. It's a joke from ancient Athens. Do you know the one about the sophist?
No.
So a guy goes to a sophist. It's pretty short. It's not that long. So guy goes to a sophist to write himself a defense speech for court. And the sophist writes him a good speech. He reads it through and he says, "This is brilliant." And he pays the sophist double his money. He's quite happy. Leaves, goes, walks down the street, reads the speech over as he's walking home. Turns on his heels and goes back and says, "What's all this? Look over here. Contradiction. This here, nonsense. This bit here, really not true." The sophist says to him, "Sir, the jury will only hear the speech one time."
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, there's my favorite book is Isaac Asimov's Foundation. In the first book,
I've been told to read it, so
it's the greatest book ever. It's the greatest science fiction story ever written. And in it, there's this government official that visits. It's very objectivist, because the main heroes are traders. The main heroes are freelance, independent traders. And it's also, pardon?
Anarchists of some kind?
Yes, they're anarcho-libertarians.
Okay.
Quite blatantly. And they're basically space cowboys, space capitalists. But the whole point is that at the beginning, you actually have a bunch of academics that have this institution that's in the far-flung corners of the galaxy surrounded by hostile forces, and this government official comes to reassure them of the viability of treaties that will protect them. And so this government official just keeps going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And there's one guy there who sees through it. So what he does is he takes a recording of the speech and he takes it to an expert in symbolic logic. This is space science, so you don't have to worry about symbolic logic or anything. And the whole idea is that he subjects the speech to symbolic logic, and he finds out that the whole thing is self-negating. He pretends to be an idiot, but he's actually a genius, because he's figured out how to make a load of reassuring platitudes that actually self-negate. And he said literally nothing. The summation of everything he said was zero.
That's a machine that can do what an objectivist can do, then.
Yeah, I mean, the actual science. I think it was one scientist debunking what the guy was saying, but it's a brilliant scene, because you realize just how clever people can use language. Right. And the whole point is, I kept going on about atoms, which got him very frustrated. I mean, he was really, really, really fed up with that, because that's all you can do. You can't, because scientists are specialists. They are experts in one particular area only. Creationists are generalists. That's their tactic. They get a huge amount of knowledge in a huge number of different areas, more than enough to bamboozle the average member of the population. Not a specialist. But the point is that you would take 100 specialists to take on one creationist, because they have more than enough knowledge in 100 subjects to bamboozle all but the specialists. So it's a numbers game.
That was one of the problems with him, was when he talked, he wasn't droning on and saying more and more and more and not letting another thought come in. He was repeating himself. and not
Yeah,
letting
but
another thought come in.
well,
That's
he
a
was
very
doing, he was
different
doing
sort of thing.
both. Yeah, he was doing both because he would expand a bit, but then he would repeat, expand, repeat, expand, repeat.
But
That's
the
another.
expansions were so ridiculous and tenuous and rationalistic. So it was a dance around a central maypole with more and more bizarre threads. And it's
Yeah.
okay. So let's say I debate these people. You didn't listen to the episode where Todd and I had our falling
No.
out of some kind.
No.
Well, he was ostensibly my business partner. And when he refused to explain his sentences, so I was not nice and it fell apart. So what would I do to people who aren't even my business partner?
You won't. That's why I say. You see, you and I are objectivists. We don't. We want to substantiate everything. We want to explain your terms and everything. All that Voltaire phrase that you used. We want to take every last atom.
Well, no, what's the Voltaire phrase? Tell the ladies and gentlemen. If you debate with me,
first define your terms.
Define your terms. Yeah.
And that's the point here. Notice how he kept having different definitions of complexity. You know, this type of complexity, that, because my basic point is that everything in the universe is self-organizing. Everything from nuclear fusion to chemistry to genetics to economics to society. Absolutely, this is why we're free market economists. We believe in laissez-faire capitalism because we understand that the way that the universe works best is when it's bottom up, not top down.
And his answer was, atoms don't self-assemble into complexity.
Yeah, but I gave him an example where they do the entire field of nuclear physics, and he wouldn't concede, and that's the point here.
His answer was, atoms don't assemble into self-complexity.
Yeah, but his idea was that atoms don't. He just wanted to avoid the whole atoms thing altogether. He was very frustrated that I wouldn't let him go, and he wanted to go on about chemistry because he wanted to lose me in the fog of sophistry. But I wouldn't let him. You
chemistry.
Yeah, you pin them down on the floor here. If we can demonstrate that any form of complexity can self-arise from simplicity in the universe, that's good. That's good enough for me. That just demonstrates that there is a tendency in the universe, and it's not an unreasonable claim to say that that could occur on a more complex order, particularly given the age of the universe.
You know, since that's, I mean, for most people, that itself right there is quite a complex thought. But do you know that Stephen Wolfram has shown, and programmers before him have shown, that really, really complex systems can arise from very simple rules like A plus B equals C.
Oh yes, there's a huge number of computer programs that show evolutionary processes, and vast numbers of them. But this is the way the universe works, and they just won't accept that. And that's the point here. All the point I was making, because I wasn't going to lose him in organic chemistry because I got better things to do. But the point is that the universe self-organizes. The universe creates complexity from simplicity. That's the way that everything in the universe, every last detail in all chemistry.
To the point of debating them, though.
Yeah. Well, because as I say, if you can't, as I demonstrated, because that was my point was to show that he will not say, even if he will kind of concede, he will say it's not relevant. So I wanted him to concede that you get more complex atom structures from simpler atom structures through nuclear fusion. You end up with helium from hydrogen. Helium's more complicated than hydrogen. You get iron.
Public debate, though. Should we public? Is it fruitful to publicly debate him?
Because look how much trouble I had to get through just to get him to concede one point. And even then, how many people understood what I was doing? How many people understood that I was getting him to ignore an example of complexity coming from simplicity, and then getting him to basically equivocate or say that it wasn't the right, he was moving the goalposts. Well, he was basically saying, oh, it's not the right kind of complexity. I'm talking about organic complexity. I'm talking about complexity, period.
But
that's my point.
Let's say we did it like Hitchens and William Lane Craig, like 3 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute,
it's
5
been done,
minute.
though. At the end of the day, it's been done. You can see these debates for yourself, and you can make up your own mind. It's a total dead end. At the end of the day, I came onto the room in order to build bridges. I wanted to try to find some common ground, and he, because he's Nephilim free, just wanted to babble on about organic chemistry because he knows all the big words and just wants to lose people in the obscurantism. That's all he wants to do.
If I debated him and he brought his viewers to the debate, do you think we would get one person, possibly, maybe?
No, because these people are. You got to remember, these people are religious. I mean, their position.
I used to be religious, though.
Yeah, I know, but you went through a complex mental epiphany. I mean, it doesn't. It's a very long process. You can't. It's not a moment. There's no revelation. There's no eureka moment with these people most of the time. Now, the point is that they hold a position for emotional and psychological and cultural reasons anyway. Nothing to do with the stuff he spins. All that babble that he comes up with is just rationalizing for a position which is inherently irrational. It's got nothing to do with science.
So in the debates, I could go so far as to, if the opportunity presented itself, I could make such an ass of him that he
wouldn't concede it. No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't concede it. He would just move on to the next one.
Hilarious. One option is he realizes he's an ass and he quits and he doesn't finish the debate. People have walked out on that. No, the other option is that he goes on to the end, like Hitchens did with some people, and they just look so silly to the end.
Well, the problem is that the audience are going to be watching with cognitive dissonance goggles, aren't they? They're not going to admit what he is doing. They're not going to admit what they're seeing with their own eyes. The audience will not respond.
You and I and Andrew and a few of us will be watching with some popcorn and a beer, and we will be laughing.
Yeah, I know. I just think there's more constructive uses of our time. This is the thing. To me, this is a step backwards.
Okay.
This is where we used to be. When I was part of other atheist and skeptical communities, this is the kind of stuff we used to do all the time. And I feel that for me, objectivism is the next step up. It's beyond that kind of thing.
Right. So what is that? So I shouldn't get distracted by debating these people. We should do a what? Puppet show?
We should promote objectivism. We should promote a positive message. Because to me, the problem with that kind of thing, dealing creationist, is that it's deconstructive. And it's not constructive, it's not productive, it's not creative, it's just pointing out other people's horrible creativity. In other words, it's going into an art gallery and basically looking at all the terrible, horrible pieces of art and then dynamiting the building down. That's all it is. You're getting rid of a bad art gallery, but you're not creating good art.
Okay, so you propose not just a principle for the future, a concrete for the future.
Yeah, you build a better art gallery and you drive the bad art gallery out of business. You don't dynamite.
That's a principle.
Yeah, you don't spend your time dynamiting the bad art gallery. You just build a better one.
Propose a concrete.
Well, basically, some sort of show or comic strip or music or all the other stuff that I talked about before. We need to find people with talent.
Narrow that down to something that you and I could do.
Well, basically, some sort of show where we basically discuss a contemporary topic, a news item, something like an actual news show.
Did you see Todd and I? Did you see one of our things?
No, I haven't had a chance because I've had so much other stuff to do. This is the problem. I'm in the middle of 15 research projects simultaneously.
Just imagine David Letterman and Paul, but that's all it was. And they're both slightly intellectual, but not really. He was really more like Paul, but something like that.
Yeah.
But you and I wouldn't have that dissonance.
Well,
when I asked you, what do you mean, that wouldn't upset you. So we would be able to go onward. Now,
what I'd like is to have a format of a higher quality than Google Hangout. I would like if you look at the Rubin report, for example, he's got a really nice camera, he's got a really nice setting, and he has people sitting in front of him.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would like to do, for example, is go on a tour of America and actually tour around and talk to people and actually interview them in their own homes, for example, or in the nearest bar or something, so that we can actually talk, face-to-face discussions with people. Do it stylish, do it classy, do it like the Rubin report, that kind of thing. Because he's come a long way. I mean, this guy used to be a Young Turks bot.
Well, okay, now that's true, but minus the investment of 50,000 to 100,000 in cameras and stuff. Look at Simon of Akkad. Is that Simon of Akkad?
Sargon.
Sargon of Akkad.
Yeah, as in the Akkadian.
Sits in front of his computer. He's got a lot of viewers.
Yes, that's true. I mean, that's where you start off with, but ideally you want to end up with something like Rubin report.
So let's say we start off with I'll tell you what. Looking at all my videos the other night, I found one video had 200,000+ views, and everything else was tens of thousands or less, which was a teeny handful. Almost everything I have is 1,000 or less. I have almost no really popular videos, but I know how to make them because some of them have 200,000 views. Do you know what they were? They were things like the local spooky abandoned town. I just drove through this area with not like 93 abandoned houses and did a video. That's my most popular video. I know how to make popular videos.
The tags are different, the title is different, and the preview image is different because you've basically got something that has to compete. If you're just the same guy sitting in front of a bookshelf day after day, you're only going to attract a certain class of audience. So you need something that has more of a sort of casual YouTube browser sort of appeal. You need something with each one has to have a different gimmick, if you like. That's the problem. It's difficult to come up with something like that on a continual basis. A lot of YouTubers who try that burn out.
Well, there can be things like a limerick every show, top 10 list, except it couldn't be. It'd have to be either top 9 or top 6 or type 8, whatever, top 3.
I've done top 10 in my videos, and they were quite popular.
Exactly, yeah. It's called the listicle now. They call it a listicle.
Yeah.
And there could be like a 30-minute show with a top 10, a dirty limerick, the most ridiculous thing in postmodernism this week, the most ridiculous euphemism in politics this week, and then a little bit of banter and discussion, end of the show.
Yeah.
But constant production and so on is important. Topicality, and it's true, you have to be topical. That's where I have this big conundrum about what to produce, because if I produce stuff that is important 10 or 20 years from now, then that's a different video from if I produce something that people are going to watch this week and is important for them to watch before it becomes old. So
yes, I mean, this is the thing. With Stefan Molyneux, he does stuff that deals with the latest terrorist attacks or the latest cop shootings and stuff like that, the latest riots. You know, that's what he does. That's what's really, really big. The problem is that I can't think of necessarily what we would add that will be different from what he does, because he's very close to an objectivist in some areas.
Oh, well, we would just be better than him.
Yes, but in a way that wouldn't be immediately discernible to the rest of the audience. It's the same thing with Sargon of Akkad. Sargon of Akkad is pretty damn close too. We could have a better sense of humor than Stefan. You and I could play good cop, bad cop in a way, on a depth that would elude the audience. I tried to be good cop just now, and it didn't work. I got kicked out before you did.
I left for poetic punctuation. Yes. At that point. I thought, that's hilarious, I better just leave.
This is the thing. I want to try to be, getting the moral high ground is easy because people of a religious or political nature are carrying around like that scene from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. They're carrying around 1,000 corpses everywhere they go, or 10 million in the case of socialists and whatnot. You know, they got a lot of baggage, and it's easy to do that. But I wanted to have a sense of greater positivity, and I tried to bring something positive to what we just went through. But they don't want that. They want conflict. They want to just bash us over the head. He didn't want. Nephilim Free is an asshole. He doesn't want common ground. He doesn't want anything constructive. He just wants to beat you over the head with his script over and over and over again. And there's no point dealing with people like that.
When you started, you did want to do a positive. And that's how I was when I got in there. And at first, and if he would have engaged with me rationally, there would have been no problem. But as it wore on, and as his personality became clear, I became much, much more free about insults and so on, because it became more clear what I was.
Because he is so insulting and condescending and repetitive. He says, because he keeps saying, I'm trying to make you understand this thing. And it's like, we're so many steps ahead of you. It's unbelievable. We've heard all this before. You keep repeating yourself. You're a very unpleasant person to deal with. God, he's got an insufferable voice. And that's the point. It is genuinely frustrating, and that's why there's no point in dealing with them. It's because there's a part of you that enjoys it and is only going to get yourself more riled up. And that's the point. You're your own worst enemy in that kind of situation.
It's just that I didn't want to come open a room, which I'm then responsible for, because then I have to shut it down when I go to bed, and I've tried leaving the room open, and that's obvious. Yes. It turns into a disaster.
That was a bit of a pain. Well, for me, it wasn't so much the hardcore pornography. It was the fact that I couldn't finish my point. That was really, really irritating. It was a really good point, too. whatever. I can't remember what it was, but it was really, really good.
Well, you can go watch the video and pick it up again in a future
Yeah.
hangout. But
Yeah.
all right, well, we should consider doing something then, because if I don't do something, I try to do something with Todd. That
Well, I think you should try that again. I mean, I think no, I think you and I and he should try to get in the same room again like last time. And because I think that we had, he and I did have something constructive to say to each other.
well,
I mean, I think I worked better with him than you might have done.
you should have seen the video, and it will never be made public, where he and I did our thing. Here was the sentence that fell apart. Everything fell apart when he said, people need to increase their mind's ability through integrated rational thinking.
Right.
And I said, what is the difference between integrated rational thinking and thinking? Why are those different? And why do you specify? And how is it increasing the mind's ability to do that? And how, can we shorten this all to the sentence being rational?
I don't see a problem with that sentence. I mean, because you agree that we need rational thought. You agree that we need integrated thought.
Okay,
And so it's important to specify, I think.
Here we go, though. Now you and I are doing something. He wouldn't. He said, you either understand the sentence or you're being obtuse. And he couldn't even use the word obtuse. He just said that I was being a shit. So he would not discuss with me what he meant. He wouldn't
I would have been a bit.
try to shorten it.
Well, I would have just said, can you please elaborate on why it is important to have rational thought and integrated thought? Because that's just Peikoff. If that's just his standard line of the dim hypothesis, that's all it is. It's easy to explain. I don't understand why that would have been an odd sticking point.
Okay, one of his explanations was that if we take axioms, we can use those to connect other thoughts. That was one of his explanations.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and then what does that mean, to use axioms to connect other? We use axioms when we open our mouth. So what does it mean to use axioms to connect thoughts? So
I think a lot of people use false axioms.
All right, so you're saying you could give him a pass and just let him do this, but he was hijacking half of the airtime and saying these things, and I'm not going to sit by and be Mr. Cropper who sits there and, what am I supposed to say? Thank you, Todd, for saying that. That was meaningful. Or I'm not sure what you said, Todd, but I guess the viewers can take, I'm going to have to openly insult him on air or ignore it and look like a fool. So I was tied down in a rough position. We cannot be in a position like that. If you and I were to do a show and you or I had a question or something we disagreed with, we could deal with that, and we might even have a disagreement, but at least we could have it. At least we wouldn't say...
Well, I definitely would like some feedback on some, because you haven't really spoken about any of the arguments that I presented, because I've done lots and lots of arguments on lots of different topics in the last few days, and you haven't really given me feedback. So I have no idea whether or not you agree with anything I've said or anything else like that.
I don't... Well, okay, well, I will just say that I didn't take exception that I sit there and want to jump in and elaborate and go in my own direction. I don't take exception. But with Todd, the exception I took was almost a constant wanting to say, what do you mean by that? And your problem, you do have an issue, and you know that you explain at length.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, that's very different from refusing to explain, which was what Todd had.
Yeah. Well, I try to be systematic. I mean, I take the long way around. I didn't take any shortcuts. I mean, this is the thing. To me, objectivism is the peak of all philosophy, because I've been through every other goddamn philosophy, all of them, the long way around. It's just the only thing I skipped, and I still feel a little bit guilty, was the a lot of the Germans, Heidegger, Hegel, Kant. I skipped a lot of that because it just. It's like there's this tedium field that surrounds all German philosophers of the Enlightenment. I just don't want to touch it. So I did a lot of Voltaire, did a lot of Hume, did a lot of. I haven't done enough John Locke. I admit. I need to do more John Locke.
Well, we should do a discussion of Locke's second treatise. Which I have right there, the second treatise of government is most important, I think.
Yeah, because I just. There was a huge sort of gap in my understanding, and it was John Locke. I didn't get round to him. I thought that Hume or Voltaire would be more my kind of thing, and I can't believe I missed Locke all this time. True, that was largely because I'm into Tom Paine a lot. I find her very relatable. John Locke is a little bit too, well, traditionally theistic in his thinking at times. Although he could be doing it like Aristotle, sort of, having to use such terminology because of the time period. Who knows?
I haven't done enough Locke to even know. I'm ashamed to say I've done much, much more Aristotle than Renaissance or Enlightenment.
Yeah, well, the Enlightenment's just wonderful, wonderful stuff. Except for when Kant comes along and screws it all up.
I think Catherine Drinker Bowen's book. What's it called? Oh, I don't know. Miracle at Philadelphia.
Nope.
Oh my God, it's excellent. It's about the Enlightenment thinkers. It's a celebration of Enlightenment.
Wow. I just read the actual Enlightenment philosophers. I haven't got time to read about other people writing about the Enlightenment philosophers. So, but I just read the original material.
I was going to say it's like a pop fiction sort of puppy treatment. It's fun. Yeah.
Well, to me, it's important to establish the Enlightenment's prominence in our lives because there's so many good things about our lives and the law and the government and everything else in our society that we take for granted, that when we realize it comes from the Enlightenment, we appreciate both the Enlightenment and those things a lot more because we understand that there was a point where it didn't exist. This is the problem with the left. They don't appreciate so many things in our society that they take for granted, which is why they're prepared to throw them away with their sophistry, their postmodernism, their critical theory, their cultural Marxism, their Islamophilia, all that kind of stuff. That's the tragedy of it.
It's amazing how some of them are so ignorant. I mean, there are literally people who believe that the Civil War happened in 1948. I mean, they literally can't, it's outside their brain to think about anything. And so for people like that, it's very easy to forget history and what happened and how it all occurred and why is today like it is. Just whatever. The Civil War is in 1948 and George Washington died in 1943 and just whatever. Screw it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm talking about the educated left. I'm talking about educated liberals. They don't.
No, that's some of them. Some of them.
Some of them. But they don't appreciate the importance of the Enlightenment. They don't appreciate how unique those ideas were. How liberty is not a universal concept. Because they keep going about, we all in the world want liberty. No, we don't. Millions of people all over the world have no interest in that or no comprehension of liberty at all. It's a unique Enlightenment Western concept with some thread going back to ancient Greece, and that's it.
Don't they all offer it though? Marxists offer liberty from blah blah blah, and
he was using Western rhetoric. I'm talking like Far East and Middle East and things like that.
Right, the liberty from vice. That's what the Middle East offers with Sharia law.
Yeah, but they're just using the terms, but they're not using the concept.
Right,
they literally don't understand what the words mean.
Liberty is a contextual idea. You can't just say it and run away.
Yes, the left use the term liberty all the time, but they don't understand it, and as I say, so does the rest of the world. But I've read Bernard Lewis wrote this book on the Middle East called What Went Wrong, and in it he outlines, and everything I've found about since this has confirmed this, and especially since Noam Chomsky absolutely hates that book more than anything in the world. So that proves it must be something right. And because it's not post-colonial, it doesn't blame the West. It basically says, look, these people have some seriously bad values, and their culture reflects their values. And he, of course, won't accept that because he believes in the whole universal values thing, as the rest of the left does. They want to believe that everybody is on the same basic level, and that culture doesn't make that much of a difference. And it's culture is everything, really. Other than reason, culture is everything that we are. And then that's the tragedy of it. I mean,
that's why you were trying to get common ground with these Christians, fell apart. You said we have some basic ideas. You guys aren't so bad. It all just fell apart. They see you as the arch enemy, and that's funny because if we go to war, they are going to they're the ground troops. The Christians are going to be the ground troops. The atheists are the ones that are going to build the missiles and the
Well, this is the thing. I mean, they don't appreciate that we have a common enemy because they're just stuck in a rut. But atheists are like this too. Remember that guy who was screaming and ranting yesterday? He really objected to the idea that Islam is a bigger problem than Christianity. He called me a bigot, which must mean that when he thinks Islam, he thinks brown people. He's one of these leftists that can't get past skin color. Because to me, assessing the two religions is just assessing them on their central principles. But he can't imagine how you could possibly have a problem with Islam, because apparently he doesn't know anything about terrorism going on or anything, or female genital mutilations or honor killings or anything else. So apparently the only possible reason you could find Islam more distasteful than Christianity is if you can't get past their brown skin, which is the stupidest thing imaginable. But that's the point. He's one of these atheists who, because he was a socialist, Marxist, I have no idea. He's one of those people who can't get past Christianity, and I get that. Americans have a lot of bad Christian culture to deal with. My situation is completely different. The Christians in my country are the nicest people in the world. They are the absolute nicest people. I love the Christians in my country. I love the Church of England. Hell, I even like the Jehovah's Witnesses.
America too. That guy would have helped you change your tire. So
Yeah. But they're really, really nice in my country. I have zero problem with Christianity in England or Christianity in Europe. Screw it. Let's leave them alone. The ones in America are obnoxious as hell. The Pentecostals and evangelicals, they're really unpleasant.
Nicer and more generous than you guys because they give a lot of money to church.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But how much of that is altruism and how much of that is voluntary compassion?
Well, okay, now look, we're getting off the subject and I got to go instantly.
Yeah, you need to go to sleep.
We should do debate or show or something. Todd, what if we got him involved? I don't know if we can, but it would be fun because there would be a tension there, and I don't know what tension you and I could ever have.
Well, this is the thing. I've been expecting it for a while. I've been expecting me to say something for you to object to. I don't understand why that hasn't happened yet.
Well, you've got to say something controversial. You're just all you do is talk about history and logic and reason, objectivism.
Well, isn't there anything
You have
else?
to go off and,
That's the problem.
well, if you endorse some principle of Marxism or something, then we'll have a problem.
But that's got nothing to do with reality or history, so I can't. I'm limited. I'm a free thinker. I'm a force of chaos. I like being free, but I also like being restrained by reason. I mean, that's the paradox of it. I'm free to think beyond, because I take pity on socialists and Christians and people like that because they're so restrained in their thoughts. But at the same time, I'm restrained by logic and critical thinking. In fact, the one type of guilt that I suffer from in my entire life is that I am not restrained enough by logic. I'm not restrained enough by reason. I need to be more dedicated to it.
All right, now we've got to, okay, we can maybe work on that. Now, listen, I've got an idea that just came as you were saying. So the theists are not restrained in the way that you are, or they are restrained in a way you're not.
Yeah.
So we've got our 30-minute show or something. We have did you ever see Penn and Teller's bullshit?
Yeah, every episode.
Oh, really? Excellent. Okay, so they would have people on who basically knew that they were going to be, the camera was going to cut them and use, just make as much fun of them as possible, and yet they went on.
Yeah, because they genuinely couldn't imagine how they could be made a fool of.
So
they're trapped in their echo chamber.
So we are good cop, bad cop, and we always have some socialist or some Christian, and that's 10 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes of some 30 or 40-minute show or something, and we have no mercy. It's like a Jerry Springer. We start off polite, be nice. Soon as we have an option, we throw a chair in their eye.
Well, I mean, I genuinely would rather it ended well. I mean, this is the thing. I don't want to ambush them or anything, but they give me so much ammunition to throw back at them. I mean, it's not my fault. If they bring it on themselves, ultimately, if they hang, I will hang them high if they give me enough rope. But if they don't give me any rope, I'm not going to hang them.
Okay, so we once in a while, and that would be one of the reasons they kept coming on, because they would say, "Oh, well, he gave so and so a fair hearing," and at the end they just said, "We disagree."
Yeah.
So once in a while, if somebody didn't give us enough rope, we would just let them off, and that would be. We could call
the show Common Ground or something. Only that sounds like a daytime TV thing. It just sounds a bit lame.
That would be a section of the show.
It could be how about peace or war ? Which is it going to be today? Is it going to be peace or is it going to be nuclear war?
Right.
Tune in to find out.
The bifurcation, but that would be only that section. The show itself would be called something like the show that all feminists hate, or something.
Brain porn or something. I still like that title, despite what happened yesterday.
Brain pool.
Brain porn.
Brain porn. Oh,
Yes.
that's right. That's a very good title. That's right.
Yes, that is. Yes.
We should do brain porn. Is that done?
No. I came up with it a couple of days ago, so I could
Oh,
Google it and see if there's anybody else that uses the title. But given what happened yesterday, I don't know. We might be pushing our luck with YouTube.
Well, we'll just register brainporn.com and put our videos up there.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll work on it. I got to go to bed. So,
Yes.
and
And
the pleasure of having a
gotta-
room with just us. This was fun.
Yes. I do prefer it because it is more relaxing, because particularly when I get wound up, it's good to just calm down and not get excited.
That was an aggravating room that we were in. That was so aggravating. I don't even know where to point people to. It was a Google Hangout, and I don't know if it's published on YouTube or not. I don't know.
Well, it's going to be on some Christian website. More atheists get defeated again! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark. I know all the tricks. I know how they operate. Yeah.
It's true, but did you notice that I was in control of the camera for a long time there?
Were you? Oh.
It was a public control and nobody else was doing it, so I just did it. And so I give you when you were speaking, and then I put it on me at times when it was other people were speaking, just so I could drink in front of the camera on a Christian hangout. I thought that was great. Anyway, good times.
I guess.
Thanks for coming to that, and
Yes.
moral
Well,
support.
Two frustrating disasters in a row. Still, I guess it's an experience.
I delisted that video. I did find the porn bomb at the end. I'll see if I can cut it or deal with it or something. But
Yeah.
anyway, all right. Well, we will talk again. We'll talk soon. We have to do something productive. Why don't you contact Todd and just see what you can do?
Yeah. I'll need his details.
Okay, I'll send you his email or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
You sent me that stuff in the email, so I've got your email, so I can reply to that situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
I'll talk to you later then.
tell him you want to build a bridge. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Good idea. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Good night.